doesn't say anything stupid. But the point is, whatever he says has got to be the truth. And I simply will not believe anything else. And young people, you've got to become just like that and stop arguing with Scripture. Stop asking what's wrong with this when you're already told it's wrong. That is one of the most dangerous things. You are most vulnerable to the devil's deception when you begin to argue with truth. If it's in the spirit of prophecy, it's the truth. Don't argue with it. Accept it by faith. If you can't accept it readily, ask God to strengthen your faith and give you the strength to accept it. Don't argue with it. You just lay yourself wide open to the devil. He will come in human form. He will bring violence. He will produce riots. He will upset the whole nation and the whole world. He will take over all who will allow him to do so. I'm going to take 5 minutes to do something I promise to do regularly. While I was at Walla Walla College, and I've told this all around because I promised to do it. While I was at Walla Walla College, a young man was brought to me who was a call porter. His name was Terry Buchla. He had been a call porter less than 3 weeks. 3 weeks prior to his visit with me, this young man who had been brought up in a Christian home of Adventist parents, who had gone to an academy out there in the West, decided he was tired of being a Christian. He was going to run away, do his own thing. He said, Elder Brooks, I started off with movies and girls, and then I went to beer and cigarettes. And after that, he said, I began to gamble and to hang around with the wrong crowd and to do all kinds of things, of course, breaking the Sabbath. And he said, finally, I began to take pills. He called them Christmas trees and yellow jackets. He said, I got real good at gambling, and every time I gambled, I made money. I never seemed to lose. But he said my conscience would bother me. Thank God for consciences. I'd been brought up as a Christian, and my conscience would bother me. So in order to make my conscience shut up, I'd have to take these pills. And then I would go and gamble. And he said one Sabbath, he'd gone into this bar, this tavern, where they had a bar and served drinks, and there were pool tables where they gambled, and there were other tables where young people came in and sat and had parties and drank together. And he said, I went in and sat at the bar on the Sabbath day, and he had taken a couple of these pills. And a friend of his was sitting next to him, and they were drinking beer. And he said, all of a sudden, he realized that he could see what was going on behind him without turning around. And he said he turned to his buddy and he said, that was a nice shot that so-and-so made on the pool table. His buddy said, but you're not looking. He said, that's the point. I can see him. He said, watch this. And every time the guy made a shot, he told him what happened. And he said, finally, my friend jumped up and ran out of the place. And he said, Elder Brooks, I thought I was losing my mind. He said, I knew I had been living wrong for a long time. I knew I'd been serving the devil. He said, but I thought this was it. The devil had come to get me. I was going stone crazy. He said, I could see everything behind me. I could see through walls. I could see all around me. And he said, as I sat there wondering what was wrong with me, he said, a being materialized across the bar. And he said, I didn't want to look. But he spoke to me and called me by my name. And he said, I turned and looked, and I knew it was Satan. I said, Terry, what did he look like? Did he have wings? Was he in angelic form? He said, no. He looked just like a man. He said, as a matter of fact, he was rather handsome. He said, but he had such evil eyes. I can't describe those eyes. That's what Mrs. White said about him. That's what the lady from New England who came down to this academy said about him. Those eyes. He does not disguise those evil eyes. And then he said, Terry, the job that you have, I did that for you. And every time you're shooting pool, you always win, and you go home with lots of money. He said, that's because of me. I do that for you. He said, all these breaks you get, I give to you. He said, you've been getting along great. He said, but I've got something I want you to do. And if you will just come over completely on my side, he said, you can name your price. And young Terry Buchla, a handsome young boy with dark hair, about 25 years old, sitting there talking to me, tears running down his face and dripping on the table. He said, I was standing on the brink of hell. And he said, I thought about prayer. I thought, if you pray, he'll flee from you. And he said, I figured if I could just get on my knees, that all this would go away. And so he said he didn't answer the devil, but he sat his beer down and he pushed away from the bar and he jumped back quickly and tried to get on his knees to pray. And he said, Elder Brooks, the devil leaped across that counter and whipped me half to death. He didn't remember anymore, but his friends told him what happened. He was writhing on the floor. And he would get up and run against the door, not try to open it, but run into it. And it would knock him all the way back. He'd fall out again and get up and hit it again. And he kept doing that until his face was all bruised and bleeding. And finally he broke through that door. And he said, my car wasn't 20 feet from the entrance to that place. He said, but when I started coming to myself, I was way down in the parking lot, running through shrubbery, up against brick walls, screaming to the top of my voice. He said, and my friends who gave me the pills said, Terry, you just had a bad trip. He said, but Elder Brooks, I know better. He said, when I looked around in that place, there were 25 or 28 of my friends sitting there drinking and having a good time. And every one of them had a demon standing next to him. And then this was his request to me.